welcome back. This is hour two of the Anti-Media Radio, and Obama is gone. The knight in shining armor is gone. The man who would change the system is gone. That's right, President Barack Obama gave his farewell speech tonight, and for liberals, it was filled with tears, sadness, and there was a day when I was in that group. I voted for the guy because I thought he was going to come in and change some stuff, but it was a very surreal experience watching it tonight because I have such a different worldview now than I did 8 years ago. I was very much stuck in the kind of partisan worldview, a binary worldview, where you break down America and your role as a citizen based upon blue-red divisions, liberal, conservative divisions, instead of looking at kind of the larger system that's in play, that's keeping the rich, that's protecting the corrupt from prosecution, that's keeping the military-industrial complex rolling along. And when you start to look at some of these issues, I don't think you can cry your crocodile tears if you want for Obama, because you view the incoming president as that much worse. But I think in order for us to move past this, we do need to kind of look under the surface at what really has gone on during Obama's 8 years. Because he hasn't really been a liberal champion. And I say that because I would love to have a liberal champion as president. The last one we had was killed. And that sucked. JFK warned us. He told us what was going on in so many words. The same way that Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex in his outgoing speech. We didn't get a similar voice of clarity from Obama in that regard. I didn't listen to the whole speech. I listened to the very end of it, and I would have to go back in. So I don't want to make a definitive claim on this, but I'm doubtful that there's any kind of seismic warning in there about the dangers of the state, which we got from other more honest liberal presidents. JFK basically said there's secret societies operating, basically, explained very clearly what was happening, and what was killed not too long after that. So, but with Obama, we have this, first of all, people that are, bemoan Trump's supposed plan to deport undocumented immigrants. You can't, with good conscience, look at Obama and say he was better. I mean, Obama deported nearly 2 million undocumented immigrants, and I'm getting this number from alternate.org. So, and some people like that. Some people think that's a good thing. I'm not one of them. But, that's just the beginning. Let's look at Obama's, friendship with the big banks. This can't be overlooked. This was something he came into office saying he was going to do. That he was going to be, ferocious with the big banks. That he was going to, hold up Dodd-Frank. That he was going to, bring criminal bankers to justice. That was a priority that he had. And he didn't do it. And But we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into some new weird stuff. I'm joined by my awesome co-host DB Schwartz. DB, it's snowing here in Portland. Is it cold in where you are too?
Yeah, it's a little bit. It was snowing. It's been snowing, so it's like winter's finally hit, which is really late, and it was really really nice summer and everything this year. So I don't know, man. I can definitely see the climate's kind of shifting a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have decades of that ahead of us. Did you catch Obama's farewell speech, my friend?
I really couldn't stomach more than the first half of it. The referring to himself in third person was just crap. I mean,
Oh, I didn't catch that.
honestly,
Just on a
you're
grammatical
not.
level, it's disgusting.
The thing is, he's got 10 days here where he's going to rapidly transition into celebrity Obama and
Right.
speech tour Obama and book writing Obama. Mind you, I can kind of assure you he'll be really the only president you'll see since, well, even Carter doesn't really leave the U.S. because they can't. And reading into that today, it's because, ironically, this guy's going to be really the only guy that can travel because what's going to come out is, he's a dual citizen. So he's going to be one of these really strange presidents. I believe he brokered a deal with Trump. I think he got himself and his family off, and he's going to roll over. And I truly, truly believe trials are going to come out. Now, we can go into what happened today with the whole debacle of the 4chan stuff. I don't know if you've segued into
Yeah,
that, Jake,
we're gonna get to that.
Obama has a lot of reason to be happy because I really, truly believe he pulled one on all of the people around him, the cohorts, the DNC, and everybody else, and he probably got himself off with a little bit of a deal there.
So you're saying that he was a fraudulent president, is what you're suggesting.
Well, fraudulent is what you can get away with if it comes out that there was a corporation that had usurped the governmental controls for a long period of time, and now the military was taking back the constitutional republic into their stewardship for the time being, mind you. It's going to make a lot of sense how he was able to do what he did at an executive level, because they'll say he was the CEO of a company. He was middle management. He followed the directives of a board, so to speak, a banking board. And, they pushed a little too far, created some wars, and a lot of people died. And those things can't happen without a consensus of a population, aka a declaration of war. We have not had a declaration of war. And
Right,
the people of the United States would never consent to a vote to continue any of these wars.
right, but that's no different than the 8 years before him with Bush.
But it builds up. The blowback's coming. There's countries that are major countries that are willing to gang up on us if we don't cut our own head off and grow a new one. And I believe that's what happened. There's something to be said for self-preservation of a country, let alone an empire. And if we start to scale back, what I believe is going to happen is a controlled scale back of our empire, creating a fortress type scenario. And why that would be done, Jake, is I really do think that the value of the dollar will plummet by about 40% here pretty soon.
Yeah, we could be about to see a seismic shift in our allegiances and even our financial system. I think it's been pretty common knowledge for a while that our financial system is just, could collapse. It's a house of cards. And someone is going to have to take the fall for that. And I don't think anyone wants to. I sure as hell don't think Trump wants to.
Well, even a war was looking a little more palatable to them until they kind of realized the daunting prospect of fighting Russia and China together. And I think cooler heads prevailed within the military-industrial complex. Now, don't get me wrong, we're eons ahead of either of those countries in technology, But technology is not the only thing there is. There's a lot to be said for willpower and the amount of population and resources are available. And there's a lot to be said with cyber war, which I frankly think we would lose if China and Russia actually put both heads together and fought against us. So the natural thing to do if you're the military in the U.S. is say, listen, what's going to be a way to preserve our power in a way that we can balance the world out? I mean, the only thing that really truly makes sense is to come to some kind of an agreement with our old ally, Russia. And I really, truly think that's happening. It's going to happen no matter what. These death pangs of the DNC, they're sad to watch, man. And it's really sad to see. It's sad to see people I respect going down the drain in my own eyes and my own mind. Give it up. I mean, even yesterday with Bernie, with his pouting out about the Russians at his town hall. I mean, to me now, Bernie, they must have threatened him because the guy is now completely he's under the thumb. And there's nothing he can do to get out of it. I don't know if he's a shill, though, Jake. Did it threaten him?
Well, he's towing the line. I mean, he's regurgitating what the same talking points the media is saying, that the DNC is saying. I mean, it's literally, these are, dangerous accusations we're making against a world power, and we're fabricating evidence to support it. This seems to me to be a very dangerous precedent. Now it's Russia. It truly is. Right now it's Russia, and we have a kind of brokered peace with them. I sincerely doubt there's going to be any kind of major escalation between us and Russia, especially now that Trump is president, because him and Putin, they probably have made out, probably will make out again.
And Jake, I want to say something just because I'm going to forget because I have so many thoughts in my mind. But
go for it.
Putin's massively invested in the United States, courtesy of Clinton and her State Department deals. Okay, so whatever American is out there listening who's to the left, and me and you both are, admittedly, of course, I call myself Burple because I truly do have some conservative leanings too. But where things are important, where it comes to personal freedom, we both agree. And that's really the truly the only thing that matters is we agree that if you're not hurting people, who cares? So my whole point is this. Putin has a lot of investments in the U.S. Personally, okay? A lot of hard resources, uranium, timber, oil, fracking, okay? Vice versa. Trump has a lot invested because he was such a shitty businessman in the 90s. He sucked. He ate it so hard in real estate in the 90s. He had to start borrowing from Russian oligarchs. So be it. He made the money back. I mean, he's worth $4 billion and he owes $1.5 billion or 1.8. So the guy's worth $2.2 billion. I think he's okay. Okay. I think he'll be probably climbing out of that debt pretty soon. But my point being is that we're interlocked now on a real level, on a personal level, even with these guys that lead our countries. And don't think this isn't just like Stalin and Truman. I mean, it's happening again. Anybody that reads history knows FDR was heavily influenced by Stalin, and that continued on to Truman. And it is, in a way, sort of our destiny being that we did come out of World War II, the victors on paper, that we should be together, man. I mean, to install some sort of balance, because China is a nasty, gnarly animal, and they're not, thank God, expansionary, but they're a real empire.
Yeah, and, I think, I'm not going to pretend to know what the hell is going on right now as far as, what's diplomatic relations, true diplomatic relations between us and Russia. But what I am concerned with and what I have seen happen is a concerted effort across the board to take down real news and insert fake news. And I even hate using the term fake news, but I'm talking specifically about mainstream media and what they're doing here. And this revisionist history that's going on. I mean, we're talking about a active, fluid, it's not revisionist history, it's revisionist present. It's a manufacturing of the present that's going on. And it concerns me when I see someone like Bernie Sanders, who I had considered a knight for truth to a certain extent. And it makes me think that moving forward, we're going to have less obvious targets. In the future, it's not going to be Russia. It's going to be WikiLeaks. It's going to be this hacktivist group. It's going to be this journalism crew that made this discovery, and their ability to take it's a, you know, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but I don't think there is a word for it. It's they're creating a way to create truth where none exists through consensus reality, through a manufacturing of consent, through social media, through the mainstream media. And I think they realized that they were losing this war on information on the internet and through social media. And I think in the last 5 years, we've seen a just horrifying infiltration of not only the internet, but of social media through trolls, sock puppets. Sock puppets are people that are paid by the government to comment on forums, threads, to create dozens of profiles online. And this is a real thing.
Jake, what do you think about it getting to a level, an echelon that's never been even fathomed before, which this is just a theory I want to bounce off you because I feel like you're going to wax poetic about this.
Okay.
There were people that are FAA junkies, and when WikiLeaks kind of went dark, there was a plane and a plane that came in from Virginia to the London to Heathrow, and then Heathrow had an incident, and the plane took off, and everyone said Julian was on that plane, and he went to a rendition site. Okay, and so he went back to Virginia. Okay, so they nabbed him. They used a huge incident, or what was really a terrorist training drill at Heathrow or whatever, to create this distraction, and they nabbed him. So they got him. So nobody's seen him but Craig Murray. Okay, only Craig Murray, the journalist.
He just did a Reddit AMA today, man.
Of course he did. But listen to a theory I have. He looked off in the Fox Hannity interview. He looked like he wasn't in the same room as Hannity. I looked it up. Hannity's 6 foot. Julian's 6'2". Julian looks like he's a giant next to Hannity. So it looks like they're green screening and splitting the screen, and he's in a green screen. So he does an AMA, right? But he's also an hour late, and he's doing this Twitch interview, right? And the Twitch interview, it looks like a rendition of him again, dude. Like maybe they nabbed him and they're able to use him in these CGI ways, dude. And it's just awesome. A theory. I want to broker it off you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, truth is so much stranger than fiction these days. It wouldn't surprise me. DB, I lay awake at night just contemplating some of the truths that are actually occurring out there. It's so much stranger than we could possibly imagine. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me if they had, it would surprise me, but I wouldn't put it beyond the realm of possibility that there's Android technology going on, that they use some of these people, and the same with Snowden. We can go down that rabbit hole, and we can talk about limited hangouts and them using, fake emissaries of purveyors of truth as a way to control the damage and to redirect the narrative. That's very much possible. I don't know, so much damage. He did so much damage to the establishment, the same establishment that seems anti-Trump. So we'll see if we don't hear any negative Trump stuff. I'm not sure what that will mean. And if we stop hearing anti-establishment stuff under the auspices of, well, the establishment isn't in power anymore. Well, bullshit. Yes, it is. I'm not sure what that would mean either. Which is to say, I guess I need a modicum of evidence that that WikiLeaks has been sabotaged.
But here's the thing: the protocol he'd been renowned for not misspelling something ever. He misspelled Hillary a couple of days ago. Hillary Clinton was one L. He doesn't. These things aren't done, man. He was known for this. The dead man
Maybe
switch
he has a
never.
drug problem. I mean, maybe
No.
he's
The
just
dead man switch never went off. Okay,
yeah.
and there was never
that sucks. Yeah.
the nuclear bomb never came. So there's only one of two things I think could happen. What my theory that I floated before, kind of along those lines, happened, or they've actually got to wait 10 more days.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've spoken about the shit. How did you put the hour of the knives? What was the thing you said? 2.0.
Well, what happened after
we
the Reichstag burned down was all of the people that were associated with that horrible terrorist act were killed in their sleep or marched out in the streets and executed. There was no trial. There was no time for a trial. The traitors had to be taken out. I'm not saying something drastic like that happens, but what I'm saying is, and we'll get into it, Jake. I know we're going to get into it here soon in the second half. When when a group of people are really, really good at using the internet because they're in mom and dad's basements because the economy sucks, but they're really talented, like 4chan, decides to screw around and create a document. Yeah, let's get into it. You get a document that looks like a Word XP document. For all honesty, the font's just so funny, and the handwritten, typewritten with no marking. I mean, this is the Trump golden shower. You can hashtag so you're in Trump, or every left leaning organization, US Uncut, the other 98%. You name it. I mean, you name it for a liberal politician right now that ran this story. Donald J. Trump is a private citizen. When you spread this around, if you're a politician, you're fair game because you're a public servant. But because he's a private citizen, they've all opened themselves up to citizens' libel or defamation of character. Mm-hmm. So because Donald Trump's a billionaire, he's got endless resources to pursue these companies in court, and I'm sure he will now, because why wouldn't you? So you can anticipate BuzzFeed's going to be gone. I don't know. New York Times even ran it. So
let's break this down a little bit for our listeners who might not know. Zero Hedge published an article quite recently today, which is that basically. Let's see. The headline is 4chan claims to have fabricated anti-Trump report as a hoax. And the significance of this, what it means is that whether purposely or not, they created a fake dossier of information that was then picked up by the liberal establishment media and parroted, and it was a complete fabrication, but somehow this document, which included peeing on a bed that Obama slept in or something. It's disgusting. But the document was actually included in a CIA. It was included in an official classified intelligence report on the election by the CIA. A completely fabricated story that 4chan is just documenting. Now, what I'm interested in, and I think Claire Bernish, a journalist, is going to be joining us soon. Maybe she'll have an answer on this. What I'm curious to know is whether did they purposely do this in order to see if the liberal media establishment would pick it up. And I think you're suggesting that that's very much the case. Or we don't know.
I mean, it appears to be. I mean, it spread like wildfire. Apparently people that read WAPO, read, more or less these mainstream in their satellite BuzzFeeds and salons and all those. They haven't seen the Zero Hedge article yet, and they don't understand that it was actually a hoax, and they continue to spread it, and it's now gone viral to where you can put in hashtag Trump urine, Trump pee, or whatever you want to put. I mean, this is think about it this way: Donald Trump's not the president; he's a celebrity. Donald Trump. Imagine if this was happening to, I don't know, who's an equivalent celebrity to him right now? What if people spread that LeBron James paid to have two Russian prostitutes pee all over each other, and then he went and he got a deal with the Cavaliers and took a bunch of money and I mean, just name a name. I don't know. Whoever you want to name that's a huge celebrity that everyone knows in the world. That's what they just did to the guy, and the guy's a private citizen. He's the elect. He's not
Well,
sworn in yet.
He's a private citizen that's about to be the most powerful person in the world.
And now he's about to be even richer than he is now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we were messaging before we went on air, suggesting that, the liberal media, and by the way, when I say liberal media, it makes me sound like a conservative. I'm, for all intents and purposes, a liberal. I would consider myself alt-left. But you're suggesting the liberal media is toast to a certain extent, and it's going to be interesting. And I can't say I'm going to shed tears for them. I can't say I'm going to shed tears for CNN, for MSNBC, for BuzzFeed, for all these, faux liberal groups that have towed the establishment line and really, to the detriment of our democracy, have sullied the name of progressivism. I can't say I'm going to be too sorry for them.
No, I mean, you reap what you sow or whatever. All the chickens come home to roost, and you throw a primary to the point where you make a huge. Listen, man, I went to Philly for the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. Yeah. I saw people cry because it wasn't because Bernie wasn't going to win. It was because a bunch of people that were part of the machine told him to go screw off and you're not important. And we're going to boot stomp you out of there. So much so that delegates left, and they had to pay people to come in and fake a crowd.
The whole DNC, that whole thing, that's a chapter of American history that I think they're going to try and overwrite. And it's one of the most sordid, disgusting, reversals of democracy I can imagine.
Oh, my God, man. It took it to a low I couldn't even fathom. I knew it was there. I did, but to see it in person and to feel it was amazing. And I think Claire's trying to call in here.
Yeah, I'm about to add her here. So we're about to be joined by journalist Claire Bernish, who I think is going to have some more insight for us. Claire, are you there? Nope, no, she's not. Let me try her again here. The DNC was, I mean, it was just, they're a crime syndicate. You're talking about Russia hacking the election, the DNC hacked the election. It's right there in front of us. Why is not more attention not being paid to that? It's incomprehensible to me that we were glossing over a stolen primary.
They were using tactics that Soviet Russia would use. They used white noise machines in front of delegates that were for Bernie, that they found out were for Bernie, and funneled them all up top to the very, very top, to where they couldn't even see really what was going on. And then they blinded them with flashing lights, right? So that their signs would be whited out that said, Bernie or indict Hillary or Hillary should be in jail, blah, blah, blah. So secondly, they had 4 or 5 different Hillary t-shirts at the vendings. They had one Bernie, and it seriously did look like the old Nazi propaganda rat Jew rabbi. Like they made his face look like that. And you can see that. You can just Google it up. Look up Nazi Jew rat Bernie Sanders or something like that. And it looked like the old Nazi Hitler propaganda stuff, the exaggerated huge nose and ears and everything like that. It was just messed up stuff, dude.
So this ties into the media narrative establishment that continues, and I think we're joined now by Claire. Claire, are you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Excellent. I'm good. So we have a continuum here of a dying media establishment that will not go away, that's going to fight tooth and claw with Trump. It's actually going to be like a top-notch boxing match, watching the media establishment and Trump go to war. I actually can't wait for it. But what we saw today, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier online, was a pretty phenomenal example of, I don't even know what to call it, but I'm talking about this fabrication of the Trump report, and I know that you were going to work on it, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it.
Well, if in fact this is true, and it certainly appears to be true because there were tweets out from accounts that seem to be associated with 4chan. So if this is true, then it's an epic trolling because it shows an utter lack of investigative skills by not only mainstream media, but it looks like the CIA too. Because according to BuzzFeed, this report was passed around among journalists and politicians and the intelligence community before they published it for a while. And then BuzzFeed just decided, I guess, because the inauguration is, forthcoming, to just run with it. It was kind of unclear why they suddenly decided to go with it, but this is crazy.
And so we're talking about a piece of fan fiction, anti-Trump fan fiction, that somehow made its way into an official intelligence report by the CIA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of astonished. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time finding the words for this. I'm just, it's like as if it weren't bad enough that you have the Washington Post like publishing that, Russia hacked Vermont. Now we have 4chan essentially undertaking like the most epic trolling of the government and the media that I think could have ever been performed. If
it's true, it's will be a footnote in history. I mean, immediate
beyond that, yes.
Yeah.
And they're still running it as of 5-10 minutes ago. They're still running this story. These people are opening themselves up to dissolvement.
Well, I think Trump is going to. I think he's going to send a message. It's going to be like something out of Game of Thrones, which, by the way, I'm addictively watching now. I finally started watching it. I'm sorry. I'm on season 3. Don't tell me anything. I think that he is going to send forth for one of these media conglomerates, and I think he's going to absolutely destroy them to send a message.
He's known for being litigious. I mean, This is going to happen. There's no way that he's not going to sue somebody over this, for one thing. I mean, I think that it's so forthcoming that I went ahead and took screenshots of the BuzzFeed report because I was worried it would be taken down before my article's even published. I mean, this is insane. To think that people who were basically doing a practical joke that they probably figured would never catch, like it would be so obvious that it would never take hold, could actually troll the intelligence community and the mainstream media, and nobody would bother to really check into the information that they gave them, particularly considering what the document looks like. It just looks like somebody's typed homework. I mean, it really could be. To imagine that these people were going with this as their evidence, and it'd be one thing if they just had it and they're like, oh, great, we have an excuse and now we can publish this. But if what BuzzFeed says is true, and they were actually passing it amongst all of these people for months or for a while, then that means that they had this information, they didn't check it out, they really took it seriously, and it's just a prank. I mean, the enormity of this cannot be. I am just astonished.
No, the 4chan message, at least one of them here, says the CIA has concluded that the Russians plan to blackmail Trump with this story we made up. Just let that sink in. What have we become?
Right, and it also says this is not a drill, as if somebody was like, holy shit, I can't believe they bought this. It was never intended to be true in the first place. I mean, It's just...
Mr. Bones treats 4chan trolled Rick Wilson with the Trump piss story back in 2016. Media are CIA-added Russian spies themselves. This is not a drill. That's the tweet you're referring to.
Yeah.
Dude, there's just
with the Trump piss story.
No way.
I know. Like, how is this even reality? This is what I came up with a new term for where we are. Because things have gotten so absurd, there is no explanation. I think that we are in tabloid reality. It's like the tabloid nature of things, the absurd, the inexplicable, and the unjustifiable have all become our reality now. I mean, no wonder everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else because nothing is really actually true.
On January 10th, BuzzFeed posted the story under the byline of Ken Bissinger, Mark Shoves, and Miriam Elder, titled "These Reports Allege Trump Has Deep Ties to Russia," and posted a link to a document alleging, among other things, that Russia has been cultivating Trump for 5+ years, that Trump has been in constant contact with the Kremlin for information on his opponents, And perhaps most inflammatory, that there are many recorded instances of blackmail of Trump and sexual misconduct. A prominent claim is that Trump rented the presidential suite of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow, where he knew that Obama's had slept in. He then hired a number of prostitutes to perform a golden shower on the bed and in the room. This fabricated fan fiction was included in an official intelligence report by the CIA. Unbelievable. The remarkable thing, it's all fake. And not only fake, it's a prank perpetuated by 4chan on Rick Wilson himself. A post on 4chan said, I can't, it's a bunch of, same thing over and over again.
Even BuzzFeed admitted that what it printed, it wasn't sure about. Like, this is the thing that gets me. If they had this for months and they knew that it was really dubious evidence and they weren't really sure where it came from and they didn't bother to really investigate it all that much, why the hell did they print it?
We need to. I've seen now somebody putting hashtag Rick Wilson piss story.
Yeah. This is, the Zero Hedge article concludes, while this entire incident is laughable, and even more so if the 4chan account is accurate, what makes it quite tragic is that it is no longer possible to dismiss the fake news angle to an intelligence report. And if the CIA is compromised, what is left for the news outlets like CNN and BuzzFeed, which were all too eager to run with the story without any attempt at verification? Chilling. And
they should hire Claire.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg, too. I mean, this is such an incredible example of the intelligence manufacturing is entirely fabricated based upon what the intention is by the establishment. What they want, they manufacture the media, they manufacture the intelligence to do it. We saw it with Iraq on a much more grave note, and now we're seeing it in play here. We are seeing, this is a sickly fusion of state apparatus and for the state, and it's someone's gonna have to take it down. And I'm not a Trump supporter, but and he's gonna establish some dangerous precedents in the process too as he goes. That's what's unfortunate is that in going after these media companies, he's going to establish some horrifying precedents against the media.
Well, and maybe that was the end goal here, though, too.
Right.
I don't, and I didn't write this because it's too. I don't even want to consider it, but it is possible that was maybe the goal. Maybe they did this because their war on fake news, which was a war on alternative media and dissenting thought, was designed to bring those down from the start. They knew that the jig was up when it started backfiring horribly, when everybody was calling mainstream media out for their complete bullshit stories. And maybe this is just like everybody's going to go down if we're going to go down too. I mean, it's entirely possible this is like a Hail Mary and a suicide all at once. It's entirely possible.
How these people live with themselves. I don't know how to look yourself in the mirror and perpetuate lies to this extent. Knowingly. I guess not knowingly. I'm some of the people probably have no idea. But you would have to, this and the audacity of the establishment to go into alternative media and classify some of our work as tabloid. The audacity to do that when you are taking golden shower stories, putting them in CIA reports and passing it off as intelligence. I mean, that is just, it's mind-numbing.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is like we know that this is propaganda. It's so much propaganda. It's, we have this whole anti-Russian propaganda. We have this anti-fake news propaganda. This is just, it's a complete information war. But the thing is, good propaganda that's really effective, traditionally has been well-crafted and very surreptitious and has been kind of inserted into the narrative where people don't really necessarily notice that they're parroting propaganda. Right. This, in the modern age, in this like digital and electronic age, it seems that the opposite is true. It's kind of like throw it out there, make it as blatant and fake and like horrendous as possible. See how many people can make it go viral, and then like deal with the fallout. I mean, this is really crazy.
They're not bad journalists. They're bad propagandists as well. Someone at the top has missed the mark or is misjudging the intelligence of the American people, because they think we're going to fall for this shit, and we're not. Some people will, but the people who don't fall for it also know how to publish things online, and they know how to make those things go viral. And so they are dealing with a new beast, a new enemy, and of course, in the next administration, Trump is going to. I mean, I believe we're about to see a full-scale war against alternative media.
But they'll lose.
I
don't know that
They're
they will.
lose.
I don't know
They're
that
outnumbered so drastically.
Just consider what I was just saying, though. Consider what I was just saying. If they know that they're going down, they know that they're publishing fake news. They thought that they could get away with it because I agree with you, Jake. I think they misjudged the intellect of the American people, to a degree at least. You know, obviously there are a number of exceptions. I think that they just they were like, oh shit, this is backfiring. We have to do something, and so it accelerated a great deal. When alternative media and independent media continued to call them out for this fake news, they realized that they were going to be going down anyway. Like their time is up. Alternative media's numbers are as big, if not bigger, than mainstream media's, and they realized that their time is over. So this is kind of a swan song suicide where they go out. Also consider that people always they stick to that duopoly narrative where Trump is so incredibly different than Obama and Hillary and all this, and he's really not. If he was, then there's no way in hell that the outgoing president would hand over a ministry of propaganda to somebody who he feels dangerous amidst this information war. I mean, to me, looking on the outside and actually analyzing what's going on instead of just looking at the individual events, if you look at it all as a puzzle fitting together, it's a war on information, and it's very deceptive because it appears to be something that it's not. But what it really is a war on dissent.
You're right. You're right. And there's a very good chance that they have outsmarted us and that they have tricked us into thinking they're doing something that they're not. This could be tactical. All of this could be tactical on their part. I don't know what avenue they're trying to send us down to get our eyes off of something else. You know, it's hard to know where our eyes should be because there's so many different levels and tiers of disinformation and deception going on that it's very difficult to know. What we do know
is the Philippines, Jake, because Russia just pulled their about half their fleet into there. Mm-hmm. And with all the tanks on the border with Russia, everybody's like, oh, we're going to fight Russia. No, we're not. We're not going to fight Russia. We're going to fight China.
Well, I mean, okay.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree with that. I think it's going to be China or it could be Iran.
We don't need to go to war, Jake.
No, that's it, too, because look at Trump's stance on China. He is actually furthering hostilities with China while Obama's dealing with Russia, but Trump doesn't mind Russia and wants to restore diplomacy with Russia. So Obama leaves. Trump, if he is able to restore diplomacy with Russia, then he's increasing tensions with China. There's a reason for that.
The only wild card was Japan, Jake, and Japan just about is ready to do a mutual circle jerk with Trump. I mean, SoftBank's about to come back to the U.S. They were booted out. They bought Sprint Wireless, and they were about to start reinvesting in the U.S. And there was a section or a factor of whatever the powers that be wanted to deal with China. Well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just deal with Japan? We are already so co-invested with each other. So that's what I'm saying, man. There's been this paradigm shift. If Japan now decides we're going to ally with Russia, Japan, and China's going to be totally encapsulated, man. It's going to be an interesting proposition.
China. Yeah.
China, and they're choking on their own coal power plants too.
So let me get a prediction then from you guys. What do you think some of the whole point of what's been going on in Syria has been this kind of bloody drone chess game against Russia. So now that we're ostensibly friends with
Russia.
That
was only because of regime change in Syria, though. I mean, the proxy war is there, and that's a definite close second. But the goal was regime change there, and it should not be forgotten that it has been mentioned in previous years that there was a goal of regime change in Russia as well. So that's just something to keep in mind.
But
I mean, that's an awfully
it
lofty
seems
goal
to
for a
me
superpower, but
it seems to me that the strategy of our military-industrial complex has been to find strategic territories that we can gain natural resources from and keep the military-industrial business going. I don't see the end game in going all in on a world war with China.
I'm not sure that that's I'm
mean,
not sure that the threat of war is as great with like as explosive, I should say, with China as it is with potentially with Russia, because the U.S. continues to poke Russia and poke Russia and poke Russia and provoke them. Eventually, like if Obama had another year, I think we would definitely be at war with them. But he doesn't. I think there's a good chance that that's just not going to pan out. But the function of a military society, like a military industrial society, like as the U.S. is based, is to make money for that military industrial machine.
right.
So there has to be an enemy at all times. And at this point, considering the bulk of this budget that is just absolutely enormous, there have to be several.
So you're saying
enemies.
a cold war with China is what you're.
I believe that's what I see. I see that, and I don't necessarily see it not getting a little bit worse than that, because North Korea is also aiming for nuclear weapons. So that's a secondary player in the area.
I forgot about them. I'd always wondered about North Korea because they were clearly a bigger threat to us than Iraq, and yet we somehow mysteriously kind of ignored North Korea.
Sort of. I mean, we're in the South and East China Sea, and that's provoking all sorts of tensions with everybody over there. And that's where the focus has been on Syria for so long. I think that people have kind of forgotten that theater.
What's the straight?
North Korea has designs on having advanced nuclear weapons sometime this year. It's who knows? This is information that we're getting kind of secondhand and third hand and fourth hand, but that's reports.
Remember what advanced is? I see a lot of stupid people parroting, "Well, we'd shoot their missiles down." No, it's called a briefcase bomb, you morons.
Yeah. No, it's a nuclear weapon is going to come in a probably a pen. Pen is mightier than the sword. I think the same will go for a nuclear device as well. I mean, you put a thermonuclear device in a very small object. It beggars the imagination that hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood. I mean, it's a nightmare scenario, but we're pissing so many people off across the world. I mean, how many countries has Obama bombed? 7. We have become. We're not even expansionist. We're not expanding our territory. We have. Do you realize we have operations going on? We have black op operations going on in 70% of the nations of the world going right now.
That's spread thin. That's very, very thin. I mean, we're in the stages of the dying empire. That's the thing. Like, even Chris Hedges wrote about this today or yesterday or something. When an empire is on its way down, when imperialism has kind of reached its zenith, and it reaches out and it tries to gain as much control as possible. And that's why we have so much control at home, like the war on information. That's why there is so much provocation internationally. Like, all of this makes sense with the cycle of empire and what is happening. Like, it's like, if you think of somebody going down in quicksand, they're going to grab at anything and everything possible to try to maintain control and not go under. And that is exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah. I want to try and find my citation for my statement that I just made, because it stunned me, the extent to which we have black op operations going on. And but my point, I guess, was that what the hell is our foreign policy right now? Like seriously, what is America doing?
Like, why going for Pax Americana, but they got
we could be building an energy infrastructure.
But it doesn't benefit the few, though. And here's the thing. The few have forever been in control, and the biggest shift, honestly, in all honesty, was computing got to a point where they could surveil in real time, unbeknownst to the elite. You have to understand the elite have been surveilled to the point where now that regular people know what they're doing. Now, the regular people felt powerless for a long time until the internet allowed that information to be leaked, okay? Once that information could be leaked, because they've had this surveillance for at least 30, maybe 40 years, they did. That's why WikiLeaks exists. And once that happened, the rank and file in the military, all the way up to the generals, these are mostly regular people too. And after that Presidio military-based crap, and we can talk about a whole bunch of other stuff that just happened where the military people themselves have actually been hurt by this deep state, Jake, that we love to talk about, okay? The deep state hurt the military of the U.S. That was a really bad idea to do, and now there's a lot of proof of it.
Yeah, well, it's so intermingled now that it's hard to imagine it being unraveled at this point. I truly, who knows? I mean, I like to be optimistic at times. Perhaps Trump will come in, and I mean, I've always referred to Trump. I've always kind of thought of him as a right-wing JFK, someone who is going to come in and try and shake up the system a little bit. At least ostensibly, that's what he says. That's what he's hinted at it with anti-Fed comments. I mean, he's even said anti-vaccine messages. He has a mythology, a backstory of conspiratorial things. He's said he wants to reinvestigate 9/11. He has a backstory of interconnected mythologies that go deep within the alternative media network, and yet we know it's hard to imagine that he is actually this person.
Who does that remind you of?
I don't know.
Seriously. It should immediately remind you of the mysticism that Hitler was fascinated with. I mean, I don't want to draw that comparison because I've kind of abandoned it, but that's a really valid point. Yeah. I mean, there are some similarities there, and if you look at what is being done in terms of governmental programs to come and the censorship that's already in place now, thanks to Obama, that's the other thing about the dying stage of empire is that there is a vast and very hasty move towards totalitarianism and fascism. And I believe that we should all be wary of that. And this information war is at the center of it, because once we lose the ability to procure accurate information and kind of examine all sides of a story, that's when it's over. That's when we no longer have the availability of truth to guide our choices and to help inform us of what's really going on.
I think that we had a choice this election where once they threw the Democratic primary and Bernie was out, and we knew that it was fascism, diet fascism, which was Hillary with a smile, or one with a flag, which was it's national fascism.
Right.
And it's different than the Nazis, which were national socialist. Trust me, Donald Trump's not a socialist. But we will see national fascism, which is going to take on a horrifying meaning when you see 60 million Trump voters ready to fight China.
Well, it was a choice between someone who represents a globalist oligarchy and someone who represents an isolationist nationalism, and we'll see how isolationist he's actually going to be. I think it remains to be seen what Trump's foreign policy is going to be, but I think we all know that a single terrorist attack will send us down a very horrifying road. I think a major terrorist attack on America right now would be exponentially worse for us than the first one was. The 9/11 launched us into the surveillance state. It inducted the Patriot Act into our lives, which made the surveillance state possible. A new terrorist attack, there's no telling what they'll do with it, and that's where the Hitler references become very real. What he could do with the new powers, handed off to him by Obama. And we're talking specifically now about the Disinformation and Propaganda Act that was in the NDAA. This man, I mean, we're talking about a man, there's possibly never been a stronger executive branch than there is right now, and look who it's being handed off to. I mean, have there ever been these kinds of powers for the executive branch in American history? I don't think there have been. Not with the tools of the NSA, which, DB, I agree with you. I think the NSA, I think there's definitely some infighting between the NSA and the CIA, but this intelligence community, it looks like just a train wreck. And where, this intelligence gathering, where is it coming from? It's because they're fabricating everything and making a narrative.
Apparently it's coming from 4chan.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, it's fan fiction. We should all just start writing fan fiction and hope it gets put in a CIA report. I think that should be a new site, actually. That'd be a great new site. I'm copywriting that on the air right now.
I should just post my theories as fact under an anonymous Reddit name, and I'm sure they would just virally explode.
You should. All right, so then, I always like to look at solutions. Any new ideas on what we can do to combat? We got to stay informed. Fortunately, Claire is always writing great articles. The pushback online, I've noticed, is getting more intense as well. People that ostensibly support the media establishment, or at least hope to, they seem to be frazzled, and they're reacting more violently online. I've had to get off of Facebook in the last week, actually, because last 2 weeks I just simply can't deal with the the manner and the approach that some of my neoliberal friends are encountering in the world right now, and just violently against The Intercept, against alternative media. And it gets to the point where you're wondering, well, what do you want exactly? Do you want the truth, or do you want an easily digestible narrative that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like there's still a purpose and an order in what's going on in America? And I don't think there is one. I think it's chaos, and I think it's sinister people trying to order the chaos in a certain way. Well, thanks, Claire. Thanks, DB. Thank you guys for listening. Keep digging. You might wind up in China if you dig to the other end.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.